Before schools, there were no classrooms, no report cards, no grades, and for most of human history, nobody expected children to spend years sitting behind desks. Because education wasn't something society provided, it was something families passed down. Children learned by watching, not by studying. A blacksmith taught his son, a farmer taught his daughter, a carpenter trained an apprentice. Knowledge stayed inside families and trades. Every profession created its own tiny school, and that was enough. Because economies were simple. Most people would spend their lives doing exactly what their parents had done. Books were rare, knowledge was expensive, and literacy itself was a luxury. For centuries, reading belonged mostly to priests, nobles, and scholars. Most societies didn't need universal education. Farmers didn't need algebra. Shepherds didn't need geometry. Villages functioned perfectly well without millions of readers. Life followed nature's schedule, not clocks, not bells, not timetables. But then, humanity built something that would change everything. Machines. Factories demanded something agriculture never had. Thousands of strangers working together, at the same place, at the same time, following the same instructions. Machines were unforgiving, mistakes became expensive, and suddenly, economies needed workers who could read, count, follow procedures, and arrive on time. Families alone couldn't train millions of workers. Something larger was needed, something scalable. Because factories weren't just running out of labor, they were running out of educated labor. Governments faced the same problem. Armies needed soldiers who could read orders. Factories needed disciplined workers. Nations needed citizens. And so humanity built one of its most powerful inventions. Not a machine, not a railroad, not a factory, a classroom. Schools didn't simply teach mathematics, or history, or grammar. Schools taught something even more important: synchronization. Show up on time. Sit in rows. Follow instructions. Wait your turn. Complete assignments. Meet deadlines. The habits of school looked strangely familiar because they were the habits industrial economies required. The resemblance wasn't accidental. Factories organized workers into rows. Schools organized students into rows. One produced goods. The other produced people ready for the system. One adult, many individuals, maximum efficiency. Education itself had become scalable. Industrial society didn't need millions of unique lessons. It needed millions of people sharing the same foundation: reading, writing, arithmetic, common rules. Even the sounds were similar. Bells controlled classrooms, whistles controlled factories. Time itself became discipline. School taught much more than subjects. It taught waiting, following instructions, working with strangers, completing repetitive tasks, accepting schedules. Attendance became measurable. For the first time, society could track participation itself. Performance became measurable too. Grades transformed learning into numbers, and numbers made comparison possible. Civilization had invented something new, a way to sort millions of people. Examinations weren't merely tests, they were filters, a system for deciding who advanced and who didn't. Diplomas became signals, proof that someone could read, write, calculate, and follow through. As literacy spread, something remarkable happened. Information began moving faster. Millions of strangers could suddenly share the same stories, the same ideas, the same news. Ideas started traveling farther than people, and educated populations made that possible. Modern banking required literacy. Contracts required literacy. Insurance required literacy. Commerce itself depended on trust written on paper. Railroads, telegraphs, factories, banks, none of them could function with widespread illiteracy. As education expanded, industrial economies accelerated, and humanity began discovering something extraordinary. Knowledge itself could become a resource. For centuries, wealth meant land, or gold, or natural resources. But modern economies were uncovering another resource: human minds. Education turned ordinary children into specialists, and specialists changed civilizations. Innovation no longer depended on isolated geniuses, it depended on educated populations. Electricity needed engineers. Engineers needed schools. Schools became invisible infrastructure behind technology itself. Telephones, railroads, automobiles, every new invention demanded skilled people, and skilled people required education. Mass production wasn't only about machines, it was also about workers who understood those machines. Modern medicine depended on years of learning. Knowledge became as essential as equipment. Something else was happening. Entirely new kinds of work were emerging. Clerks, managers, accountants, secretaries, the white-collar economy was being born. Universities became factories too, not of steel, but of expertise. Modern economies weren't built by resources alone, they were built by accumulated knowledge. Countries destroyed by war recovered through education, because knowledge survives even when buildings don't. Some nations lacked oil, others lacked minerals, but they invested in people, and people became their greatest resource. Human capital proved something remarkable. Brains could substitute for natural resources. Economists eventually gave this phenomenon a name: human capital, knowledge treated as investment. And schools had become something humanity had never seen before, factories that produced capability itself. Schools were no longer simply teaching people, they were deciding where people would go, who would become doctors, who would become engineers, who would become managers. Education had become society's sorting machine. Examinations changed something fundamental. Talent was no longer judged only by family name or social class. Increasingly, it was judged by performance. Grades became signals. Diplomas became signals. Degrees became signals. Employers suddenly had a way to evaluate strangers. Because modern economies had a problem. How do you trust someone you've never met? Credentials became one answer. Education created something else: social mobility. People could move beyond the occupations of their parents. For millions, schools became elevators, not physical elevators, economic elevators. And as education expanded, so did the middle class. Teachers, accountants, engineers, managers, professionals. Entire lifestyles became possible. Corporations themselves depended on educated workers. Because complexity was increasing, and complexity requires knowledge, factories could train workers quickly, but modern organizations needed something more. People who could solve problems, communicate, coordinate, lead. College enrollment exploded because education had become an investment. Years spent learning promised decades of higher income. Families around the world began purchasing something invisible: opportunity. Homework wasn't just homework anymore. It became preparation for economic competition. Modern economies increasingly depended on people whose primary tool wasn't muscle, it was knowledge. The center of economic power was shifting from physical labor to mental labor. And as technology advanced, education became even more valuable because machines could replace muscles, but knowledge created machines. The wealthiest economies on Earth were no longer powered primarily by coal or steel or oil. They were powered by human capital, and schools had become the mines. Then another revolution arrived: information. Computers changed the rules. Routine work could be automated, but thinking became more valuable. Entire industries emerged from ideas alone: software, biotechnology, finance, consulting, artificial intelligence. Knowledge itself became a product, and information became the raw material of wealth. Innovation became global. Ideas crossed borders faster than ships ever could. Economic power increasingly concentrated where talent concentrated, not necessarily where resources were found. Some countries possessed oil, others possessed minerals, but increasingly the most valuable asset was educated people. South Korea had little oil, little iron, little land, but it invested heavily in education and transformed itself. Singapore faced similar constraints. Its greatest natural resource wasn't beneath the ground, it was inside classrooms. Schools no longer simply supported economies, they became economic strategy. Governments began competing over test scores, because educational performance increasingly predicted economic performance. Families understood this instinctively. Education had become one of the few investments capable of changing generations. But success created pressure, because when education becomes opportunity, competition becomes intense. And a strange question emerged: were schools preparing people for the future, or preparing them for a world that no longer existed? Because schools had been designed for industrial economies, but civilization was entering the information age. And once again, humanity faced a challenge. The economy had changed. Would education change with it? For over a century, schools were optimized for the industrial world, but the industrial world was disappearing, and education was entering unfamiliar territory. Machines first replaced muscle. Now they were beginning to replace routine thinking. Jobs that once guaranteed stability were becoming increasingly automated. The economy demanded something different: adaptability. Memorization mattered less. Creativity mattered more. Answers became cheaper. Questions became valuable. Knowledge no longer lived inside classrooms, or libraries, or textbooks. It lived everywhere. For the first time in history, geography mattered less. Learning had escaped buildings. One teacher could now reach millions of students. Scale itself had changed. Again. And something remarkable appeared: personalized education. At scale. a dream educators had pursued for centuries, because people don't learn identically. Yet industrial schools treated them as if they did. The assembly line model that powered industrial civilization was beginning to show its limits. Another assumption was collapsing. Education was no longer something you finished. It had become something you continuously updated. The modern worker might reinvent themselves several times, and lifelong learning became economic survival. As artificial intelligence grew more capable, human advantages shifted again. Creativity, judgment, curiosity, communication, these became increasingly valuable. Perhaps the future of education wasn't producing obedient workers, but adaptable thinkers. Another educational revolution might be underway, as profound as the one that began during the Industrial Revolution. Humanity had reinvented learning before, and it was preparing to reinvent it again. But one truth remained unchanged. Civilization renews itself through education. Every generation inherits knowledge from the previous one. Everything humanity has built, every invention, every discovery, every industry, has been accumulated knowledge. And accumulated knowledge requires one thing above all else: people willing to teach and people willing to learn. Airports don't run on concrete alone, they run on trained minds. Hospitals don't run on buildings, they run on knowledge. Electricity doesn't merely flow through wires, it flows through generations of education. The digital economy isn't made of silicon, it's made of ideas. Modern civilization depends upon millions of specialists, and specialists aren't born, they're trained. Which means every first-grade classroom contains something extraordinary: the future workforce, the future inventors, the future leaders, still learning to read. Every breakthrough began with someone who once sat in a classroom. Schools became so ordinary that humanity forgot how revolutionary they were. We call roads infrastructure, we call ports infrastructure, we call electricity infrastructure. But perhaps humanity's most important infrastructure was never made of steel, or concrete, or wires. It was made of teachers, books, questions, and curiosity, because civilization is ultimately a chain of knowledge, each generation teaching the next. Break that chain, and progress stops. Protect that chain, and prosperity compounds. Every morning, billions participate in a ritual so familiar that we barely notice it. But that bell quietly powers modern economies. Because schools never merely educated children, they industrialized knowledge. And that made civilization scalable. The greatest resource humanity ever discovered wasn't oil, or gold, or land. It was human potential. And schools became the infrastructure that turned that potential into prosperity. The modern economy wasn't built only by factories, railroads, or computers, it was built by classrooms. Because before civilization could mass-produce goods, it first had to mass-produce knowledge. Subscribe to LBC.